What's happening, everyone? This is Antibody with Team Xonotic, and what this video is a 10,000 foot overview of Xonotic. So what we have here is Xonotic 0.8.2. You can ignore the auto build. That just means I'm downloading nightly. So what I want to show you is what you want to do, like absolutely, what you have to do when you first get the game, okay? So you're greeted with these three screens. First thing you want to do is set up your profile. Of course, you want to have like some new hotness in here. You don't just want anonymous player. You want to put your name in here. So choose some colors, put your name in there. And if you do want stats to allow you to track your client, that's how you can see how well you're progressing in the game. All right. Next thing you want to do, this is a very fast game. If I didn't mention before, if you haven't seen the game before, Xonotic is a first-person shooter in the arena style, so it's like a Quake Live. So it's very fast. There's lots of weapons, but everybody starts off on the same level ground. So it's really about skill rather than like character classes or, not much emphasis on the power-ups and whatnot. So anyway, going back on the speed aspect of the game, you're going to want to set up your key bindings. There's a huge combination of configurations that you can use, but what I would recommend is if you're an ESDF or a WASD player, is put your weapons in the keys surrounding those so you can switch to them quickly without having to do something crazy like go up to the top number row. So yeah, there's that. All right, once in game, it looks kind of like this. Okay, surprise, surprise, it's a first-person shooter. So let's go through the weapons one by one. I'm going to try to make this brief. As I said, this is a 10,000 foot overview, not an in-depth tutorial. But let's have a look at our starting weapons. So I've loaded up all the weapons pretty much. I've been walking around this map for the past 5 minutes or so. 3 minutes 56 seconds, I guess. So you start with this weapon. This is called the blaster. Okay, it shoots out, like a little fireball thingy, little electron blast, and it's not very useful. Doesn't do much damage in terms of like an offensive weapon. However, as a movement implement, it is fantastic. So allow me to show you what we can do with it. So, hey, I want to get up there. So how do I get up there if I can't bunny hop but so high? The answer is bunny hop while shooting the ground, and you can get up there. Cool stuff. See, very little damage going on there. So like, I don't know, I think I just dealt myself 3 HP damage to get all the way up there. So yeah, super useful to reach very high ledges and whatnot. But also, you can use this similarly to ricochet off of walls, like so. So I'm going to hit this right here. I will mention this is like unlimited ammo here, but I will ricochet myself off the wall to try to get that 50 armor over there. So quick movement, you can quickly escape, or in dire situations you can always just try to juggle your opponents by bouncing them in the air like they're some sort of toy balloon or whatever you want to imagine. Okay, next up, starting weapon. Shotgun. Okay, so the shotgun is more of a damage weapon. It doesn't have any movement capabilities or anything like that. It is a hit scan weapon, which means basically instantaneous hits. So it fires out a spray of pellet thingies. Okay, that's its primary fire. Just about every weapon in Xonotic has a primary fire and a secondary fire. So we've already seen the primary fire of the shotgun. So it's going to blast some holes in this wall. The secondary fire is not a fire, really. It is a slap. So if you get close to your enemies, you can definitely slap them. It doesn't take any ammo. It does a heck of a lot of damage, but it's a little bit tricky to land. Okay, moving on. Well, let's see what the shotgun looks like. I'm just going to throw the weapon. So that's what it looks like when it's sitting out on the map. Okay, so I just pick it back up. All right, I guess since we're right here, so this is the Devastator, aka the rocket launcher. So pick that guy up. This is a neat one. It has a couple of tricks to it. So beyond just pressing and releasing, it releases a projectile. But if you press and hold, you can guide that projectile for a little while. You see how that curved over there? So very useful, makes this game very dynamic, unlike Quake, where it's basically a straight fire projectile. You can hit your enemies when you can't necessarily see them with this method. So super useful. Okay, so as I said, most weapons have a primary and secondary fire. The secondary fire in this guy essentially detonates that projectile midair. So let's see if I can demonstrate this properly. Okay, you see that? So I just hit the middle mouse button, which I've configured as my secondary fire rather, and it will explode that projectile midair. Okay, cool. Okay, so you already saw what that guy looks like. It was right over there, but yeah, I'll just toss it just for fun. Okay, moving on. Okay, this guy here, this is the mortar or the grenade launcher. Okay, so it looks like this. Brand new shiny model. It's gorgeous. I love the model for it. Let's get it out in the sunlight. So this also takes rocket ammo, but it has a bit of a curve to it. I don't know if you can kind of see that, but they fall in the air. It's not propelled or anything. You're just tossing some grenades over. Okay, so that's primary fire, and secondary fire is basically tossing it out and letting it hit one surface. So like this. Okay, so it basically detonates after a fixed period of time, and this is very, very useful for getting into those hidey holes that your enemies will like to stalk and wait for you to appear. So kind of smoke them out with some secondary fire. Okay, so again, that's mortar or grenade launcher, and it looks like so. Okay, since we're up here, so this guy right here is called the Electro. This is what the Electro looks like in the first-person perspective. This is like a speedier rocket launcher that fires kind of electrical particles. It does not deal as much damage, but when combined with its secondary, this primary fire becomes absolutely incredible. So let's demonstrate this in the small corridor. So what I'm going to do, the secondary fire just throws these little globules of matter out there. Now, if I hit those with the primary fire, it creates like a chain reaction and a hell of a lot of damage. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, boom. Okay, cool. So that's Electro, and again, what that guy looks like. Okay, this guy takes cells. So let's see if I can find you a cell. Oh, I know where one is on this map. So what the cells look like. That's a cell. This guy. Meanwhile, while we're at it, that's a canister of rockets. So useful for rocket launcher or your mortar. Okay, moving on. All right, this little fella here is the Crylink. Crylink is another splash damage weapon. So unlike the shotgun, it fires slow-moving or projectiles that are not instantaneous, I'll say, and it looks like so. Okay, it fires out in a web, and if you hold the primary fire down, they stay spread, but as soon as you release the primary fire, they collapse on one another. And so that's very useful for, say, if this here is where your enemy was, what you want to do is collapse like right on the enemy so that all the particles land on him and thus you deal the most damage. Okay? Okay, so that's the primary fire of the Crylink. The secondary fire just fires a cluster of them. But it does have a nice feature in that it has a pulling motion to it. And what we could do with the pulling motion is you could fire it at an enemy, and instead of pushing them away, it'll pull them towards you. But you can also use it to fire at the ground and propel yourself forward. Now, it's a little bit tricky to do, but with a little bit of practice, you can master it. But you get a huge boost forward. So even if you were in a tight corridor, it's kind of hard to fire a blaster behind you, but it's super easy to just hit this at the ground and then you're speeding around. So again, this is Crylink, and it looks like that. Okay. Now let's take a look at the weapon that I'm carrying right now. This is called the Vortex, aka the Nex. It was named the Nex in the previous incarnation of the game, rather. And I guess it's most equivalent to the Quake railgun. Okay, so you see we have a ring around the center crosshair. So it does charge. It's a hit scan weapon, so it's one of those instantaneous ones. It does not have a secondary fire. Instead, its secondary fire is just a zoom. So you can already zoom with other key characters, so I never use the secondary fire to actually zoom. So anyway, this guy deals like 80 damage per hit, very effective at finishing off your enemies, or, you know, just knocking them down to tell them to go back to wherever it is they were hiding. Yeah, so basically get out of my face gun. Very useful for the Twitch aimers out there. Okay, so that's the Vortex, and it looks like that. Okay, so that is just about all the weapons on this map that I can show you. Let's go and see on another map some of the remaining ones. So I'm just in my local server, so I'm just going to switch over and go over to Stormkeep. Start multiplayer there. Okay, so in Stormkeep, let's go this way. Okay, so this weapon over here, this is called the Hagger. And it also takes rockets, and it's pretty neat. It's a splash damage weapon. Tosses out rockets in a rapid fire type fashion. So that's the primary. The secondary is if you click and hold, it can load up to 4 of them and fire them all at once. So you could do this and wait for your enemies to come through like a choke point. Super useful. Basically, if you hit all of them, you're going to kill the other guy, no matter how high their stack is. Okay, and that's just about all I really wanted to cover with the weapons. There's also the machine gun, which is almost self-explanatory. It's not on this map, so I'm not going to show it to you right now. You'll know it when you see it. It looks just like a Uzi, and it has a reload. What I do want to show you is the importance of these guys. So this is a mega health. Notice you're not going to go over 100 health unless you pick up these little 5 shards, or unless you pick up this big guy, which gives you plus 100 HP. So you'll start to rot in health as soon as you go over 100. So it's very useful to grab these mega healths in a schedule. So you want to keep a chain of those so you can keep yourself stacked up, where when you enter in fights, you could take more damage than your enemy, and therefore you could just basically stomp all over them. So cool. All right, similar to the mega health, this is the mega armor. This gives you plus 100 armor, and it does exactly the same thing. It rots back down to 100. Okay, so what else do we want to cover? Let's see. Other tips and tricks. What I like to do, I spend some time... Oops, sorry about that. I spend some time in this game menu making sure that my environment is the way that I like it. And so you can tweak and tune stuff like how sensitive your mouse is here and your field of view in here. Let's see, what else? I'm very particular about the music in the game. We do have some nice tunes, but if you really want to hear your opponents as they walk around you and fire at you trying to kill you, you may want to turn some of these volume sliders down. All right, and I guess the last thing I want to cover is if you go to the server browser, the really easy way that you could filter by stuff is, substring. So if I type in frag force, for example, I can go right to it by just typing frag in the title bar and then making sure, I want to show all empty servers or all full servers. And if this thing starts janking around on you, it's basically because the servers are loading in real time. You can cause it to just hold on, chill out by hitting the pause button. Okay, so that's about it. That's my 10,000 foot overview of Xonotic. I hope you enjoy the game. My name is Antibody. I'm with Team Xonotic, and you can ping me on, let's see, I'm on QuakeNet IRC and the Pound Xonotic channel, or yeah, I think that's the best way to get in touch with me. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the game, and happy fragging.